When did spiritual practices begin?
Well, that's the interesting thing, Jimmy, because you can trace back the first actual discipline was people taking mala garlands, right? And making a connection to the divine by running their finger from one bead to the other, saying either God's name or saying a passage from Holy Scripture in the world. They referred to it as mantra japa yoga. And some people say it's 10,000 years old. Some people say it's 50,000 years old. You know, the human race, without question, has been around for 175,000 years from Adam down to us. And over those years, there were different ways through meditation and different breathing practices. I mean, the ancient Indians, as a civilization, is the oldest civilization that is somewhat like it is today, was then. But in ancient times, it was extremely prosperous. It didn't have 1/10 of the population that it had today. And actually, the landmass of India was even bigger than it is today, if you can imagine. And it was huge. And when Eden, after Eden and man began to fell from grace, it was like, okay, what do we do to get God's grace back? And it was the city yoga masters and lineage that understood that there were certain disciplines, certain rites, or certain rituals through the mind, the breath, and movement primarily to connect people. So out of these mindsets of japa yoga, their intelligence spiritually, Jimmy, went up. More and more 5D ideas came into their 4D and 3D self and made them want to connect with this infinite intelligence and this infinite being, right? How can I connect? And over the period of time, Siddhanta has come, and you addressed one. It was really funny. You know, Christ made one of the most profound statements. And before I left the Lama series, after being there 4 years, I remember a week before I left, the master Lama gave me a real talking to that validated what Master Jesus says in Scripture, where he says, "Know ye by your work." And so I was getting ready to leave. And of course, I was 22 going on 23 at the time, very young, and realized I'd been with the Lamasery long enough. I saw all the power and all the things they knew, but that had cleansed me so much. Now I was 12 to 13 years on the other side of the death experience that I had in 68. I had been to heaven after dying, but now I had been to heaven hundreds of times living. And I knew that having to die to go to heaven was the biggest bunch of crap that people had done on the planet. And I'm sitting there and he goes, "You know what? One day, little Lama, you're going to be a father of 3 sons. You're going to have an incredible business. You're going to be an entrepreneur. And money at that time, Brother Jimmy, was the furthest thing from my mind. I didn't even have a warm squeeze at the time. So marrying or having children wasn't it. And I said, well, why in the world? I want to stay here, uh, Lama G, because this feels like paradise on earth. This is heaven on earth to me. And he says, the people that will just stay and not do what I'm going to have you do will not come into their fullest potential. They will not be actualized to come into their full. You came this time to come into your full power, your full potential. And he says, you know what? If I had the need of money, he didn't have the need of money. He's very advanced, can materialize things right out of the ethers. The advanced lamas and yoga masters can all do the same. He said, I would be self-employed. And I said, why would I want to be self-employed? He said, because you're never going to know exactly day to day where the money's coming from and exactly what you're going to get paid. So you then put your faith to the test. And by the way, it's one of the greatest siddhanas that you can do, because you prove your faith and you prove the strength of your connection to the divine. And that, Jimmy, after, training for 52 years and having a practice now for 40, there's no question that doing your work, passionate work, is one of the greatest siddhanas you can do.